I know what you want. I do. I knew what you want in the moments after the game on the Labatt postgame show. I'm Thomas Rankar, film analyst here for Blue White Illustrated, host of the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. But I know you don't want that first part. You don't want 15 minutes of me telling you about the X's and O's reasons that Penn State lost to UCLA in one of the most embarrassing performances and one of the most embarrassing losses. And I don't use that term lightly. I generally and truly hate using the term embarrassing because, I think it's overused. But that was embarrassing. The players after the game acknowledged that was an embarrassing loss. What some people had described to me as the worst team in college football, and you lose to them, and it wasn't necessarily that close. So we're not doing X's and O's. We're going to do the bigger picture here. We're going to do the vibes. And here's the thing is I'm uncomfortable shooting from the hip about thoughts about feelings because feelings are not facts, and I feel like it is my duty to deal in facts. So we are going to do it. We're going to talk about the big topics, the big picture things that are going wrong with Penn State football, but I want to do it in the way I do it, right? And it's not going to be yelling about how much Franklin is a bum. But we're going to address that in this conversation. So it's going to be a little bit based on the game film from this past weekend and the season-long trends, but we're doing a vibe check here on our Monday recap of what we learned about Penn State football this weekend. Some obvious things have emerged in the second game in conference play. So please, out here on a limb doing something I'm not used to. These are not the waters I swim in, but we're snorkeling together. So like the video, subscribe here to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel if you would, and we're going to dive into it. Here's number 3. We're going to work our way up to the thing you want to talk about, which is number 1.
Number 3.
The pieces of this team do not fit together. And that is pretty clear. And I want to acknowledge some things that we talked about throughout the first month of the season with the offense, so we're going to start there. And the conversation that I was not a part of about this team, the offense not fitting the quarterback. My hesitation with that conversation, James Franklin was asked about it on Wednesday of they run a pro-style, it doesn't fit Aller, and he says it's a pro-style offense, protections, passing routes, complex running games, all these things that he has to manage. And that's all true. But there is something deeper than that other people were pointing out, and the words to me didn't fit, but the tone here. So let me add my layer to that. The play caller absolutely does not fit the quarterback. The offense can be whatever the play caller calls, right? And so I think even in his last game, when it was a fine performance from the Nittany Lions on offense, there were still some things that were very frustrating in there. But they showed they can develop a passing attack around the quarterback to get him in rhythm and let him make some genuinely hard throws, like the touchdown to Kyron Hudson or the touchdown that should have been to Luke Reynolds at the end of the game on the final drive, where he's throwing game-winning plays or he's throwing really hard passes to bring his team back after you got him in a rhythm. You can build a passing attack around him. But what about when the play caller needs to call what he feels is his best play? What does he believe in? A power option sweep with a 5'10 slot receiver as your sweep player and Drew Aller as the power option quarterback. Now, last year, if that were Tyler Warren in that situation and Katron Allen as the runner, okay, you're putting great players in position to make those plays. But the two players I just described are passing element players. Trevor Pena is a route runner, and I understand he's been pretty good in that jet sweep game, but he also went for negative 10 yards because he doesn't break tackles. That he at Syracuse and here at Penn State, he has not been a tackle breaker. Now I understand he broke 2 against Oregon, and he has been decent in that job, but it has been fundamentally a position that doesn't fit. And there's more that we could talk about here. There's just so many situations where your play caller, what does he believe in? There's always been 10% of this offense that I thought didn't fit Aller, and that's entirely fair. And it was the biggest question. And when they started doing option handoffs the first spring practice with Kotelnicki, I went, okay, they're going full Kansas. And we saw how they adapted it with Bo Pribula and with Tyler Warren. They have asked Aller to be the runner this year. And he's done a decent job. But here's the thing. He's a scrambler. He is best as a scrambler, not as a designed runner. He's not breaking tackles and being fluid in his movements, and he is what he is. I don't need to describe him to you. You've seen it. It's ungainly, but it works when the defense is not prepared for him to do it. But James Franklin even acknowledged they knew that blitz was coming. And they knew they were going to get pressure off the edge, and the plan was to get Pena the ball. But what if Pena doesn't get the ball? And now you've got Aller running down the pipe with an unblocked defender. And Luke Reynolds has outside leverage on a guy who is attacking Aller. And I know you don't want the X's and O's, but like the play call, I wanted it to, I keep yelling in my head, timeout, 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 when that play is about to go. And that's not what they, just again, back to the point, the play caller does not fit the quarterback in the deepest parts of what he's been. I thought they were going to build more of an offense around Aller as the passer instead of trying to bridge the gap between Aller and make him more of a runner and then allow him to be the passer. They're trying to do what they did last year, but just have him take a bigger role, and it's obviously not a fit. And so, credit to the people, Landon Tangwell and Joe Klatt who talked about that before this point. I just thought once we hit conference play, there was going to be more from the passing game. And there was in this game, but not a lot. And so spent a lot of time on that. And it's not just that. I think that Andy Kotelnicki is a really good offensive coordinator. And I think he's a very smart person, but the pieces there don't fit. And I feel the same way about Jim Knowles. He hasn't forgotten how to coach defense. It's not even the conversation of it takes a long time to learn this defense. To me, it is very clear that these defensive tackles don't fit his scheme. So the top three, there is a good fit or a fit adjacent. Zane Durant has been putting in a lot of hard work being out of position, taking on double teams, and they've adapted some things in the defense to try and help out those smaller guys with kind of a tilt and allowing them to play double teams in a more obvious way. But that takes away a lot of your ability to stem left and right, to move at the snap. And so they're kind of conceding, we're going to tell you what we're going to do here, and then, just to stop you from having the ability to push the defensive tackle out of his gap, because that is the problem here. There is a blueprint building for how to beat Penn State's defense, and a lot of it has to do with what's going on up front. So it's a multi-layered approach. It's a multi-layered problem. But let's start there because that's where we've started. Over the last 2 games since entering conference play, Penn State's defensive tackles have seen 74 snaps against the run. That is the most in the Big Ten. They can't get off the field. And part of that is they can't stop the run. Their average depth of tackle is 5.17 yards downfield. That is the highest in the Big Ten. Now, they are not exactly the players that are being set up to make those plays. They're being asked to hold the point of attack and allow the linebackers to get in and make tackles. The problem is they're not holding the point of attack super great. Now, Xavier Gilliam and Alonzo Ford, I think, do fit this system, but they're playing so many snaps, they're getting tired. And you can't go to the bench because Owen Wafel, 295 pounds, 6-foot defensive tackle. Ty Blanding, similar size, 295. Ty Blanding's a great athlete. In a lot of other Penn State's iterations of a defensive system, he would be in this and making plays with Durant. But the way they're asking them to hold the point of attack, they're not keeping the guards and the centers off of Penn State's linebackers. Now, Tony Rojas and Amari Campbell had been making up for that. And now Tony Rojas isn't there to make up for that. And now those tackles from the linebackers, which they were leading the conference in stops, that is no longer happening now. So it's not just that Dom DeLuca, it's not just removing one player, it's that the thing they were compensating for, they're not compensating for anymore. So another leak in the dam. And this is very much a dam that they're trying to build on the run defense front with 6 players. And that is not working right now because once they go to the bench, because they have to go to the bench, they played 160 plays in the last 2 games, it starts to leak and you get more and more yards. And then let's get to the second part of this, which is the defensive structure in the secondary is built to take away big plays and intermediate passing, to suffocate the passing game in every way possible. And what teams have done is they're just saying, okay, quick game, slants, RPOs, screens, anything underneath to get just a couple of yards in the passing game. And then with the run defense being leaky because they don't have a Tyreek Williams or they don't have a big-bodied nose tackle up front to clog things up, that's going to leak, and then we'll get a couple yards here, and we'll nickel and dime this defense all the way down the field, and we've seen the results. It's been working. The blueprint of get some rushing yards, get some passing yards, set up 3rd and 1, convert, move on, rinse and repeat. And what happened in this past game is Penn State tried to adapt. They tried to adjust, and when they did that, they played man coverage. And when you play man coverage against an elite scrambling quarterback, then suddenly he's got 101 yards rushing on 3rd down alone. And so the problems that are systemic. It's not just Dom DeLuca's bad at football, and that's not fair to just one player. It is a systemic problem that the players up front don't necessarily fit this defense, and that is starting to break through and show other places. And now there's a clear way you can attack this defense to keep them on the field, wear them down, and then hit chunk plays once they go to man coverage, or you get your athletic quarterback out on the. Now, not everybody can do all parts of this, but there is clearly something that they're going to have to address to stop the run so that they can play the way they want to play. They might not be able to play the 3-safety defense the way they want to if this continues to happen. Okay, so that leads to number 2.
Number 2.
Even when they were in position, Penn State's defenders missed so many tackles against UCLA. So compounding all those problems is now, when you are in position and you can get a 4th down stop, there's a missed tackle and a 1st down conversion, that's sloppy football. That's not paying attention to detail. Zane Durant and Zariah Fisher jumping off sides on key conversion downs. There have been 3 snap infractions by the center so far this year, who is a 6th-year senior. And again, I don't like calling these individual players out because it's more than just those things, but Penn State's offensive line has had communication issues despite the fact that they have all these players that have returned. Now, the left side of the line, great. I have no problems necessarily over there. But generally, an offense that has all these seniors returning, James Franklin has called them inconsistent throughout this season. How is your senior-laden offense inconsistent? Again, I don't like to call out coaching because I don't know how to coach. I don't know. You and I don't know the details that go into actually coaching, but we do know the outcome of them, which is sharp football where players are executing at a high level and not making mistakes, especially if they're seniors and they've been around in your program long enough to teach them the fundamentals so you can focus then on higher level things while also reinforcing the fundamentals every practice. And that's not happening. So what is that other than coaching? You know, that seems like a pretty 1A to 1B situation. That's a clear line between one and the other. And like that is like for a staff that was touted as one of the best that Franklin's ever put together, what is the thing that is allowing these players to continue to make mistakes? And I don't believe in mass benchings. I think that fans think that the emotional vindication they feel of somebody else being punished generally isn't the helpful thing when coaching and teaching is usually better. But here's the thing. Coaching and teaching isn't working right now. So there does need to be some consequence for making a mistake. And this, again, goes to Nick Singleton's struggles as a runner. And I don't envy the position he's in because I also think that, like, this is not the offense for him with an offensive line that isn't giving him wide open lanes. But as a senior runner, you shouldn't need wide open lanes. Katron Allen being outsnapped by so many plays just because it's a passing plan feels, again, like that's a coaching decision that if you're going to just say, we have to feature Katron Allen, it doesn't matter if it's a passing down. He has to be on the field. There has to be a running threat. There has to be a threat of him catching the ball and breaking tackles. He's the only guy on the offense that breaks tackles. And so when you take that off the field, you take the opportunity for plays to be made above structure in the offense. And like Luke Reynolds, that's the other guy that can do that. And again, fumble, right? And they needed him in that game, so he came back in and he played, and I give him credit for coming back and playing strong. But when it comes to veteran mistakes or mistakes in putting players in the position, it's just there's too many of these things piling up to say it's anything other than the coaching decisions of putting these players in the positions that they're in or not removing players who are struggling. Now, again, I'll give him credit because I said that needed to happen with Kyron Hudson, and he delivered a better performance this past weekend. He still dropped a key 3rd down that converted a 3 and out, right? There were still plays I saw where he was just plastered. but not every receiver is going to win on every route. So there is some give and take here. Their plan of let the players work through it and try to coach them through it. It does work sometimes, but it's not working enough right now. 3-2, I think, is the evidence there. Okay, so we've gone on quite a bit of time here. We need to get to number 1, which is the thing everyone wants to, but all this stuff to me points to number 1.
Number 1.
Is the end actually near for James Franklin at Penn State? Here's the problem. Penn State fans have just generally not liked James Franklin. They didn't like his positive approach. They didn't like his manifesting the outcome you wanted at the beginning of his career. They haven't liked him since then. They think now he shows no emotion. And so, when it comes to the whole fire Franklin thing, which has been going on for 5-6 years now, you develop calluses on this side because I don't have an opinion about that. That's not my job. My job is to get the facts and deliver them to you. But the facts are mounting up, right? And it's not just the fans, right? So the fans are going to say those things. To me, the thing that is striking now, after the big game conversation against Oregon, the way the offense played, the way that they got close, and then they didn't win the game at the end, and then it comes down to his timeout usage that just infuriated me from a process standpoint at the end of the first half, leading to 3 points for UCLA. And then the loss. People like Nicole Auerbach are on TV after that game suggesting Franklin should just leave and a fresh start. Now the narrative is it would be good for Franklin to leave to get out of this toxic situation. And no, people with no skin in the game are now saying this. And beyond that, just people I talk to in my life, rational people who either are around the program, not around the program, fans that have been defending James Franklin for a long time, just everybody that I've been talking to. Reasonable people that don't follow the fomentations of fans that don't like Franklin have been calling for him to be fired for years. These conversations are now just kind of going on. They're just everywhere. So when there's smoke, there's fire, right? There is, to me, for the first time ever, there's smoke to this conversation. We live in a world where if you say it enough times, apparently it just becomes a reality. And I know that fans don't want to hear the excuses, right, of all the things that were in the past. Of facilities and airport runways and NIL and all that stuff, of all the things they've had to build while James Franklin is here. The ironic thing is now, to me, this conversation, there's merit to it. There's merit now to the conversation of this was supposed to be the year. And he went out and got the staff. He went out and got the players and then allowed this situation to develop. As the coach, your job is the buck stops with you. You have to make the hard decisions. So if you see the decision of let's put Drew Aller in these situations and you don't say, hold on. This can't be the plan. That is not, we need to dial this back or whatever you want, however you want to do that. This plan is obviously not working, and there is the responsibility that ends with the head coach of not stepping in for some of these situations. And the ironic thing is that throughout the course of his tenure at Penn State, James Franklin has been asking for the resources to match the expectations. And in the last 2 or 3 years, he's gotten them. He built Penn State into a point where now the conversation is real. It has merit. And it's just ironic that he would be the person that would then suffer the consequences and not see the benefits on the other side. But that's where we are now. I think it's fair to say, the conversation about James Franklin's tenure at Penn State potentially coming to the end. And by the way, I don't think that's the reality. I think that for all the reasons you understand and all the reasons behind the scenes, it is more likely that he will be the coach for the remainder of the season and maybe even beyond. But we can now have the conversation about how it could happen otherwise because it's actually happening. And I know I'm always late to these things. I'm always hesitant because of the reasons that I pointed out earlier. But here we are, 3-2 losing to UCLA. They need a bounce back real bad. Northwestern comes to town. I think they can beat Northwestern pretty easily even. If they were able to get some big plays. This is not a talented team overall. They play tough, smart football, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't have any faith so far that this team is going to put it all together. Another one of those things that point number 3 is leading us more down that road. So we're going to talk about it more this week here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, on the BWI live show at 10 a.m. Hopefully this is more of what you were looking for. And I hopefully did it right in my own way so that everyone gets to be happy. Because here's the thing. That's what I want. That's what I want. I want everyone to get along and have a good time and enjoy football and have some fun. So hopefully, homecoming week makes you feel nostalgic. Everyone can wear their throwback stuff. Generations of Greatness uniforms are coming. We'll see you this week on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, of course, at bluewhiteillustrated.com.